Hey everybody, Patrick Kirby here from Do Good Better Consulting. Happy day to you. We're coming back to you with another guest expert training, and it is well needed, and you are in for a treat today. With me, my friend Kathy from Forum Printing. Kathy, how are you?
I am doing awesome, Patrick. Thank you for asking, and I know you are awesome because you always are.
I do my best to be as awesome as possible. It does help that I drink a boatload of caffeine. But today is actually something that I'm really excited to talk about. It is communication, and it is more specifically print communication. So a lot of you as nonprofit, either leaders or nonprofiteers in general of nonprofit organizations, are probably looking at two things. One, you're either on a fiscal budget, right? So it means in the next month and a half, you're coming up at the end of your budget, or you're looking through the summer and you're looking at your budget saying, ooh, it's going to be either a tight squeeze or it's a bonanza for a year. Now, if you're in a bonanza year, congratulations, you are a unicorn. But if you're like everybody else, which is looking at and trying to decipher where your budget's going to end up, you're looking at probably either tweaking back or rolling back a couple of things on your budget line. Now, the first thing that most organizations do is cut marketing and printing and all these little tangible things, and that is the dumbest thing that one can do, because if you are in a need for money and you're in a need for donations, you're going to want to double down on your marketing to get your message out. So I have brought on Kathy, who is a printing expert who has been in the field for a number of years, who's going to walk us through why this is important to talk about and discuss, give some options, kind of see some trends, and go forward. But first, Kathy, tell us about you. Why are you in the position you're in? Where did you start? Why are you here? Give me the lowdown, and the floor is yours.
Hey, thanks, Patrick. I started in the printing business about 32 years ago. I worked prior to that with the Forum newspaper, sure. And I went to Case Printing, which now, of course, is Forum Communications Printing. So, and in my time, I've worked with a lot of nonprofits. I think they're a great asset to the community. They do wonderful work.
Yep.
And it's a pleasure to work with them and to try to expand their marketing efforts, and to get their name out in front of them. As over the years, 32 years ago, there were a quarter of what the nonprofits are now.
Right.
So now we're all fighting for that same dollar. So you have to be out in front of them.
Well, that's part of the challenge, and how to stand out in a crowd, how to make your message extremely interesting to as many people as possible. And one way of doing that is, really the main way, is communicating. Right, and through our classic printing and having a tangible piece in our hand, that's still important, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. How do I know that I need to have something or want to give to somebody if I don't have that information in front of me? If you're the big boys of the nonprofit world, of course we all know about that.
Sure.
But a lot of the nonprofits in our area are small. They're mom and pop shops, and not everybody knows about them and what the good they're doing. So that's where the tangible comes in, to make sure that you have something in front of them, make it interesting, so that we all know about them and tell your story.
Right. Yeah. If you've got 5,100 nonprofits, let's just say just here in North Dakota.
Right.
What? If you are a 1 or a 2 person organization, or you're a completely volunteer-based organization that has a board and a really great mission, the only thing standing in your way of raising a bunch of money to further that mission is how do people know about you. And so really to have a number of ways to communicate, I think, is super important, and not lean on one. I think some of the danger here, and kind of tell me if I'm wrong, is a lot of people say, okay, the internet exists and social media exists, therefore we don't need physical mailing. Nobody opens it up anymore and nobody cares. How wrong is that statement, and why is it wrong?
It's absolutely wrong. All of the data that's out there about marketing efforts and having something tangible, something in your mailbox, still points to print as important. Has it changed? Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
What we do now is maybe tell our story in print and have them go to a social media site or the website to donate.
Yeah.
So the two marry together very well. But does one work without the other? Absolutely not.
Yeah, and I think you can have some minor successes on just solely doing electronic communications. But if you don't have some sort of reinforcing mechanism,
Yep.
that you come home and you open up your mail and you're like, Bill, birthday invite, Bill. Oh, what's this?
Right.
And you can open it up and you've sort of triggered something in your brain that says, oh, I've seen that somewhere.
Sure.
Right. So
Right.
What's the number of touch points you need to actually, what do they always say? Like, you want to have enough touch points to make a sale, like 7, 8, 12. I mean, well, I don't know.
Right.
And that's super important to the nonprofit world, is because that's exactly what you're trying to accomplish here.
That's exactly right.
Excellent. So what are some of the unique techniques that you guys use, or that you've seen in your industry, of showcasing something that's relatively unique? Or what sort of things have you seen that are fun ways to stand out in a crowd from the nonprofit industry?
Well, I like for nonprofits, nonprofits touch the soul, and I think something sent out that's, just a plain envelope, I think doesn't work. You need to have something that's unique. You need to have a puppy on there. You need to have a child on there. You need to have something, of course, that ties to your organization, but that's just stops people in their tracks. A lot of times with a nonprofit, their appeals, we're seeing are putting into envelopes. There are things like Giving Hearts Day that, most of the people just send out a postcard, which is great too. You don't have to open anything, but then you're not having that ability to have a reply card or something like that that's going to trigger them to send something back.
Yeah. Sending something back is really important too. So I know you've probably worked with a lot of surveys that might go out.
Oh, yeah.
So, you can take an online survey, super great. If you're an organization and you send out a physical piece that has, I have some serious questions to answer, take your time. Here's a pre-licked envelope or whatever you need back. The type of individual that is going to send that survey back, physical mailing, they've taken the time to physically fill it out, put it, drop it into a mailbox. Those are the more valuable and tangible things that you can take away from those who know about your organization or who may not.
Right.
Those opinions, I think, are, or should be, held in a higher regard because they've taken time out of their day to do it, right? They've sat down and physically opened it up and done it and sent it off, rather than anonymous or even sort of the quick answers you can give online. These are handwritten. So people are super dedicated to your cause. What sort of, do you find a certain number of survey questions or pieces to that you find most effective, or different ways that do you put them with newsletters or appeals in general to kind of spark interest?
Most of the questionnaires that we send out are on their own. They maybe have a little bit of an intro to them, but they want to make it as quick and refined, I think, as possible. Everybody's busy. That's why a lot of times the social side of things isn't as much, because we're all busy and we say, we'll do it later. Right. When you've got that tangible thing, you're right. If somebody's going to actually sit down now and take a pencil out and start filling this in, they're probably giving you more honest answers, I think, than what you're going to do online, where it's just like, let's just get through this really quick. Right. And I'm not saying anything bad about social media or online stuff. No, I think the two marry, again, very well together. But I think you're right. I think if you're sitting down at a kitchen table and you're physically doing something and returning that information, I think it's more, valuable. To the people who are trying to gather that information.
Well, and maybe talk about that too, because I think we think of print as old media, and I think we think of all social media as brand new and nobody's ever done it before. But you've mentioned marrying these two together, and I think that's super important. So maybe kind of give your opinion on what that marriage looks like. How do these two work together, and then they don't? That kind of describes on how important one is in addition to the other before you meet somebody face to face in the first place.
Sure. And it's been for probably the last, since I suppose the internet really came about, I've heard the story that print is going away. Well, it's not ever going to go away in my lifetime. Have we become smarter? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Did it used to be that you just sent out something to everybody, 1,000 people, and you hoped somebody took it?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
Now we're trying to be smarter with it. We're trying to target more into who we're looking at.
Yeah.
But that marrying of the others is very important, even in catalogs or things like that, where you're actually buying a product. We want to have something tangible in their hands to say, oh, I didn't know I needed this.
Yeah.
But now let me go online. And now you can look and get maybe some more information online, and you can actually go to your shopping cart then and buy.
Yeah.
So I think that's where that important thing, and it follows not only in like a catalog, but also to the nonprofits.
Right.
Because a lot of people have their own sites too. Now I don't have to write a check. The important thing at the end of the day is that we still get people to know who the customer is, who the nonprofit is, and to have them donate. I mean, that's how they stay afloat.
Yeah, and you alluded to this earlier, but or kind of just what you said is being generic no longer works, right?
No, it does not.
So I think the personalization of some of these handwritten or these printed pieces exponentially more important nowadays, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So let's walk through kind of what it should be personalized, what doesn't need to be personalized, what sort of thought process do you put into, or should we as nonprofits think about as far as personalizing our communications with potential donors or supporters or people who have no idea who we are?
Sure. I think it's kind of it's more than one thing that shouldn't be general.
Sure.
One of them, if you're writing a letter, don't say dear sir or madam. You've lost me already on that letter. You need to know who I am.
Yeah.
You need to speak to that person.
Sure.
So in the letter, have a salutation that names the person. But there's also, more importantly, I mean, for nonprofits especially, right. I think what you need to do is you need to look. If you're sending out a letter or an appeal, say, for instance, to your database, mm-hmm. you shouldn't write the same letter to somebody who may not have given ever to your company, or to a person who's given maybe 2, 3, 5 years ago.
Yes.
That same letter should not go to them. That goes to your upper echelon of donors. The reply cards. You should never tell me, if I'm $1,000 giver, you should never tell me that you want $50.
Right.
If I haven't given to your organization, you shouldn't tell me I need to give you $1,000.
Right.
Because you've lost both of them.
Yeah.
You know, so it needs to be personalized. The nonprofits know their database. They can sort it by how much. Mm-hmm. So I see a lot of times 3 different letters. One that goes to the upper echelon, one that goes to your probably massive part of your mailing list, and then a letter that goes to somebody who hasn't given, or maybe somebody that you've just gotten their name, hasn't given or hasn't given recently.
Yeah.
So then you kind of tailor those letters to those specific people. And that's very simple to do. The letter itself could be very much the same, maybe a paragraph or 2 that just alludes to, gosh, you've been a supporter of us for X amount of years. Thank you for your gifts within time, or we'd like to tell you a little bit about our mission and why we need your help.
Yes.
Type of a thing.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you said that, because I have seen a lot of groups who think the time and energy it takes to segment different populations is, well, we don't have the time to do that, or I don't think it's necessary. It's super necessary.
It's super necessary, is right. And you know what? It doesn't take as much time as they might think. If their mailing list is already broken out, and most mailing lists are broken out into a first and a last name. Right there, I've got your salutation already taken care of.
You're good.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's so important. If you're a smaller organization and you don't have 10,000 major donors, let's just say you've got 25 donors who give 1,000 or above. Taking the time to print those off and then hand sign them with a note would not take that much more time. And then, of course, they're opening it up, and you can tell the difference between a digital signature in most cases, but you can also tell what the handwritten note is, or personalize that note, or say, hey, Dan or Shelley, what a wonderful gift, and thanks so much for thinking of us. Hey, we really appreciate your support. And to have a physical thing with a personalized note on those things, that's night and day. That's night and day from a form letter that you get from anybody who's just bulk pushing everything.
Absolutely. Well, you've gotten their attention because you're talking to them.
Right.
You know, and that's where I say, the generic doesn't work. Don't just say, dear sir, dear madam, dear neighbor.
Dear friend. So
you don't know who I am, but you're talking to me. You want me to give you money.
Right.
But you don't even know who I am. You haven't taken that time.
Yeah. And I think even, let's just hypothetically say if you don't know it and you're sending out a laundry list of emails or things or whatever, that might be fine just to kind of cast a net, but don't have an expectation that you're going to build a relationship with a dear sir.
Yeah.
Or don't think that the relationship's going to do anything better than a mild handshake if they expect to know your name or you to know their name and you don't remember it. I mean, that's an old Dale Carnegie principle.
I think it is.
What is it? Remember the person's name so that that's important and sweetest and most sound in any language, I think is how it goes. And that's super true in writing. It's super true in digital. And I think you'd say the same thing. It's like if you're going to personalize here in a physical mailing, repeat that in the digital version as well.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Again, it's the marrying of the efforts together.
Correct.
So you see one, you remember the other one. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. So kind of even jumping off of that, where people don't think they have the time to segment. And I think a lot of issues arise when it becomes appeal time. And then all of a sudden, everybody's hyperventilating over we don't have enough time to do an appeal, and it's thrown together, and it's just a absolute S show because they just have not done planning. Or they haven't planned ahead. Walk me through. So that we've never done this before, right? So I'm a brand new nonprofit, and you need to explain to me the reason to plan ahead is why.
Well, there's a lot of reasons to plan ahead. One is to take away some of the stress.
Right.
But really, if you just sit down and plan out your appeals, whether there be 2 a year, 4 a year, I don't think you should over appeal. I donate to several nonprofits. And I see it's just like, oh my gosh, I got another letter from them. It's an overkill, I think. But what I think is to just take a look at your calendar year and plan out what you're going to do, because there's some benefits there. What you can do is you can take a look and say, I need envelopes for 4 appeals. We'll just say quarterly appeals. I'm going to need an envelope for those 4 appeals. So instead of saying, okay, I'm going to print envelopes for appeal 1, and now I'm going to print envelopes for appeal 2, what we can do is we can print them for the entire year. I've worked with a nonprofit that's I just don't have the revenue to do an entire year. Well, we're looking at doing for 2 appeals. We're still being able to save them some money.
Right.
So little things like that. Planning ahead will also give you that ability to maybe tag each one of those appeals. So now you can start to take some information back and say, oh my gosh, half of our appeals came in with this reply card that had this information on there. So you're tagging it with what it is. So you're starting to build some data on how effective your appeals are. Now, it doesn't mean that you sent me the first appeal, I happen to have grabbed that envelope. I pay in the end of the year. Whatever I don't do, I'm giving Hearts Day, by the way.
Right.
But I just say, at the end of the year, okay, now I'm going to write my checks.
Right.
I may have saved the envelope from the first one and tossed the other one. So it doesn't give you complete data, but at least it will say that one was memorable enough. So now you know that you can put more eggs in your basket for that one. So, it's all that data generating and trying to figure out why they're giving, who is giving, when they're giving. That's going to help build your nonprofit.
Yeah, and and I think this is beautiful because when you look at your fundraising calendar, from a budget standpoint when you are going to be dipped low, right? Yep. So that the beginning of the year after a big Christmas or an end of year appeal is going to dip, right? Yep. After you do a winter giving day that your next month and a half is going to be low. Right. Or the summer, right? If you don't have a golf tournament or you don't have some sort of event in the summer, this is a dead time of year from a fundraising standpoint, typically. Sure. Right. So build your appeals around the need to sort of elevate your fundraising game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then you can begin to have conversations that sow or plant that seed for a gift maybe in the fall or the winter time. This is a great time of year to sort of, all right, maybe it's not an ask, maybe it's an update, right? We're halfway through the year. This is the impact that we've had here, the numbers that we've made. This is the successes we've had. We couldn't do it without you. Let's go.
Right.
And what's the value of being in front of somebody, maybe even not asking for money?
That's right.
That then sets the table for a personal one-on-one conversation. Like, hey, I really thought that number was interesting that you shared with us in that letter.
Right.
Oh, well, I'm glad you read that. Right. And now you can take that information back that this person received the mail, they read it, and all of a sudden you're documenting these people who are very vested in your organization because they take the time to read it. If they take the time to read it and they take the time to donate, all of a sudden those should be your best friends that you have continuous personal conversations with or whatever means by possible. And it's all done through print. Oh, we're so good at telling people this.
Well, and you can change up your you don't have to send everything in an envelope. No. Like I said, the giving hearts, a lot of the information that's out there is a postcard.
Sure.
Nonprofits do newsletters and doing exactly what you're talking about, giving a little bit of update, telling a little story about maybe somebody in their organization or somebody that they've helped, whether it's an...
Yeah. So this is another one that you can probably attest to is that you don't need a 50-page newsletter.
Oh gosh, no.
Do a very quick one and say, hey, to learn more about this story, go to our website and learn more. Now you're driving traffic.
Right.
Somebody physically reading something to have an activation to a donate button somewhere else, but you're getting them there through printed traffic, right?
That's right.
Write the story that's very interesting, have them read more on your website or your social media pages, and all of a sudden you begin this symbiotic relationship between print and social.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're doing it so you're not pushing.
No.
You're doing it very calm. Again, are they going to just go out to that website because it's Tuesday? Maybe not.
Maybe.
But now they've seen a newsletter. They've seen something that's very interesting on it. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I should follow up on that.
Yeah.
So again, there's that marrying of the different medias. And I don't think there's one media that's out there. And I'm in print, but I don't think there's one media out there that I would say doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
I think we all work together very well.
It does. And that balance is important.
Absolutely. If you plan it and you keep it all together and keep it, with the same look and feel, don't have one so much different than the other.
Yeah.
It's like the McDonald's. You can see the golden arches. It doesn't have to say McDonald's.
No.
Because all of their marketing is based around the golden arches. It's theirs.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of the nonprofits aren't as big as McDonald's, but, the same concept needs to be there. Keep that continuity between it.
Yeah. Well, one of the challenges I think with continuity too is I think a lot of nonprofits don't see their lists expanding, and they're always questioning, well, how in the heck do I get more people to send this stuff to? Like, right, we've got things here and things there, but our lists are maybe 1,000 people deep. Because there's a continuous need to add to your database. You're always going to have people fall off, right?
No. And that's not unique to a nonprofit. That's everybody.
That's everybody, right? There's people who just don't. I mean, I don't find your content intriguing anymore. I've moved on to something else, right? How do we help build that up? I mean, is there ways to kind of help expedite larger amounts of people that we can add to our database? Yes, absolutely. There's brokers out there that we can use to get mailing lists. Sure. And that's what we're really seeing. I don't know, maybe not a new idea by any means, but we're seeing a lot of people doing that just to kind of streamline and get. People are dropping on with the donations. Like you said, they don't like your content anymore or just don't find it appealing. Maybe they're donating because their parent had an illness and they've passed on now. So that tie is no longer there. Sure. Even in my business, we can't stay stagnant with what we have. Businesses come and go. They close. Yeah. So now we've lost somebody. We need to, pull in from the other end. And that's where the brokers come in. And the nice thing about the brokers is you don't have to say, I want to buy one carrier. Right. Because the people within that carrier may not all be your targeted market. Yeah. So you can really streamline it now and say, give me some information, whether it be geographic, whether it be an age group, a household income, children that live in the household with you, certain age groups of the children. We can even do things like, if they are designated as a philanthropic, that they are donating to nonprofits, or donating at all. Yeah. And then we kind of streamline it. So it's not saying, again, it's not generic. You're not sending it out to you're not sending it out to Fargo. They couldn't afford it. I think that the real big difference between large organizations that a lot of the small nonprofits go, well, I'll never be as big as them, or I'll never be as effective as they are, is that they know their data well. Right? Absolutely. They know who they're sending it to. They know what their likes are. They know what their dislikes are. So the challenge for the smaller or the medium-sized nonprofits is to get yourself in a position where you, as an organization, know your donors as well as the big guys and gals. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so you know who you're serving. You know what your demographics are. Go get those people, add them to your list, and start churning and burning those analytics numbers. And having print to help you sort of sift through that, or using sort of like the traditional media to buttress your social, will give you now that analytics feed that all the big wigs have. And that's the real difference. They know data. Absolutely. And the smallers don't. They're relying only on gut instinct, which is great. But if you have gut instinct and you've got actual tangible science or statistics to back it up, you're an unstoppable force in the nonprofit world. That's right. Yeah. Right. And the nice thing about, I have customers ask me that all the time. Well, I have a mailing list. If I buy one, now I'm doubling up. No. What we'll do is we'll take the broker list and we'll match it with your list. And if there's any duplicates at all, one gets kicked out. Yeah. We don't want you wasting your money. No. In the world of print, if you get a better ROI, if you get a better return, that means it's working. So we want to do everything in our power to make it as good out in the field, so that you're getting a return on your investment, and you're saying, okay, this is working, this is what I'm going to do. Again, the marrying and keeping that word out there, but we don't want print to not be a part of it. No. I think it's a very important part of it. I think it's critical, and there are stats that say organizations that eliminate their print from their planning and their marketing see a significant drop in donations across the board, because now you're telling your donors that they're not important enough for those who don't rely on tech to see it, that you're not interested in maintaining that relationship. Now, the other piece too is the older generation like reading stuff. I remember working at an organization that would have checks returned for appeals that we sent out 20 years ago. Oh, funny. But they just held on to the letters. Like they held on to the return envelopes. and then they would send them, like, you'd see like, what? Why is this from like 1987? But they would send them. And
right.
so they sit down and they read and they learn and they feel attached to some of the more prolific organizations because they tell these stories.
Sure.
And so if you're an organization that wants to get into the legacy giving or the long-term big gifts, you need to appeal, pun intended,
right.
to the older generation that enjoys reading and physically having something in their hands.
Yeah.
You have to. And so you're dismissing them as not important to your organization if you're not doing that alone. And then you have the ability now to segment and really get in front of the new generation and use that as marketing that actually speaks the same across the board.
Right. I was reading an article, I found it very interesting, and I think it kind of relays here, but they're talking about the newer generation, the younger generation, that they don't want to read their books anymore online. They want to actually have a physical something in their hand, which I think is a great turnaround to, what people were saying, nobody wants to read anything. I'm still, of course, maybe I'm a little older generation, but I still like that tangible book in my hand. I also want to put a page.
No. And with the amount of research they do on screen time and the amount that it hurts your eyes or whatever, I mean, they've got a whole bunch of stuff that's going to come back full circle. And what's old is new again. And
absolutely.
That's one of the things. Yeah. So, if you can believe it, we're already literally at the tail end of our time today, because I knew this was going to happen, because this is what happens when we get together for coffee and
it does
and beverages, because the clock goes. But I want to do a couple things. So one, if you had sort of one thing that an organization can think about when it comes to their marketing and their printing and their appeals, what's sort of the one big takeaway that you would suggest that organizations think about or work on when it comes to print, digital, and everything else?
Balance.
Okay.
Balance, I think, is what, you need to keep it, you need to keep the right amount of appeals going out, the right amount of hits to there. You need to be able to give that information across the board, whether social or whether it be print. Yeah. I think there's just a nice, even balance that you go out there. Don't hit the people too often, because they're going to start to turn away from you.
Yeah.
And don't hit them too little, because then you've lost some of them. As you said, how many thousands of nonprofits are there out there? We're all going for that same share.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important with nonprofits too. The thing is, you can't be too showy.
Yeah.
You don't want to send something out to them that's going to say, I'm using part of the money you have donated to me to do this elaborate piece. You need to, and you can't do something that's coming off a copy machine.
Yeah.
So I think there's a balance there. You need to be professional.
Yeah.
You need to send something out to them that's going to attract their attention. Don't make it just a plain something that's going out to them. Have something that's going to grab at their heartstrings.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. That's what nonprofits do.
Yep.
I have a puppy. Anything that comes to me from animal side, I'm like, so there's that balance. So whether it be the amount of appeals you do, or whether it be how showy or how not showy it is, there's just got to be a balance.
Yeah. Now, for all of you nonprofits that were paying attention in the animal care nonprofit world, you just got a very large hint on how to keep and softy. So for those of you paying attention, I expect you to get inundated.
I love it.
Yes.
I will report back to you, Patrick.
I love it. Kathy, thank you so much for helping us out today. I think it's an important topic, especially when we're talking about how to make sure that our budget is correct and we're not wasting, but we're doing our due diligence to connect and make sure that we're on top of things. If people want 30 plus years of print and communication experience, and they want somebody who knows what they're talking about, how can they connect with you? And as always, we're going to connect and link in the comments below, but how do they get a hold of you?
Well, they can call me at Forum Communications Printing. My phone number direct is 701-476-2006. Or my email is kleingang@forumprinting.com, and that's LEINGANG.
I love it. We'll link those as well in the comments below so we can get you connected with everybody who is superly interested in learning about balance and the importance of buttressing not only physical print with your digital and your face-to-face marketing to get your story out to as many people as possible, because that's how you tell your story and get noticed and kind of rise to the top.
Awesome.
You're the best. Thank you so much for doing this. Yeah, no, I love it. I know you do, because we talk about nonprofit work all the time as a sidebar, because you do amazing things. We worked together for years, and you're a rock star, is the best. So Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you who are watching. And again, get more information below. Another guest expert training in the books. This one was a good one, and we'll see you guys next time. See ya.